Hi and welcome to the Shady Design Studio. In this video we're going to tell you all about fabrics. So this is our buyer's guide or beginner's guide to fabrics. So here's how we're going to start. There's three basic fabrics that you can choose from. You can have a cotton, a linen or a silk. Then there's also the polys. In front of us we've got two examples. So these are cotton blends with a real distinct texture about them. And they come in all sorts of different colors. Most of these fabrics are upholstery materials, but they're perfect for curtains, perfect for cushions, perfect for lampshades, and you can find a texture and a tone that will suit your space by simply getting a fabric cutting and seeing if it works well with, let's say, your artworks, or maybe your rug in your room, or maybe you've got some other colors that you're trying to complement. So there's a huge array of different fabrics that you can choose from, and it's all about finding something that suits both your style and your budget. And we've got some different weaves in here that you might want to play with. So really what we're saying is, just because a fabric can be plain doesn't mean it has to be boring. Right now a really popular color is these soft turquoises and blues, and we found them to be really great. Often we use them for those double-sided looking lampshades that you might have seen. Alternative to textured fabric is you might want to go with something that's really flat, really plain, and you don't want too much texture. That is another style that you can go for. Or for a more traditional look, you could explore some silk slubs. So these are fabrics which have a bit of a weave in them, or even a linen. So these are Belgian linens. They're beautiful, different fabrics in different weights. So what I mean by weight is some are thicker and others are thinner, so they're not too thick. It means that most light can come through. Fabrics come from all over the world. We can certainly use your favorite brands like Warwick or Zappel. Here's an interesting fabric which I quite like using on vintage projects. It's got a really sort of textured slub about it, and it's got that sort of old 70s look to it, and that's really a fun way of making a new lampshade look quite old. Okay, so that's plain fabrics. Let's move on to patterns. There's different pattern fabrics that you can choose from, and the techniques that they use are either screen print, which is where you literally get a screen and press it down with the coloured ink onto a different coloured base cloth. So this most often is like a two-tone kind of colour, because the more colours a screen print has, the more expensive the fabric ends up being, and I'll show you an example of that. That is a fabric from South Africa by a collection called The Design Team. Here we've got a lovely embroidered fabric, and if this video was 3D you could touch this and feel how you can and well, I'll turn it over and you can see where the stitching is. So that's the front of the fabric, and it's quite a wide fabric. All these fabrics that you have just seen mostly are about 140 centimeters wide, so it's quite economical to get a number of lampshades or cushions out of a meter of fabric because it's so wide. It's about 140 wide. Here's a great screen printed fabric that looks like an artwork in itself, and the colours really start to jump out at you, which is a bit of fun. And finally, I've got an example here of a fabric that's printed onto a velvet. So again, if I had 3D video, you could touch this and feel how fantastically fun it is. And if you love it heaps, you can even get it as a wallpaper. Often with fabric collections, they have different, if they don't have different fabric types, they'll have different colorways of the same pattern. So this is the peacock in a cotton canvas rather than the velvet. And then the fabric books are great because you can see how to style your room using the fabric. And here's a great example of the same pattern in a different colorway. So when you're choosing from a family of fabrics, down the track it becomes really easy to mix and match. So it means that you can, from the same family, do, let's say, the ceiling pendant in this pattern, followed by the couch in a different pattern, and over here we've got the cushions in one pattern and the drapes in the corresponding pattern. So you can tie everything together nicely by using the same pattern family to create a new look in your room. So let's move on to another example. So you might have seen this family of fabrics. It's by Florence Broadhurst, who's a designer from the 70s, let's say, and she had passed away, and her designs are now going by Signature Prints in Sydney, and most of the designs have been wallpapers, but there's also a series of screen printed fabrics that you can choose. This is probably one of my favourite designs. It comes in close to a dozen colours. There's also the bamboos that I love, and the horses stampede, which has been fabulous. So fabrics do come from all over the world. This one comes in from England, and it also looks like a watercolour. So it's like having a piece of art in your room. Many of the fabrics are sort of ranging in price, so you can always find something that suits how much you want to spend. And for a lampshade, you don't really need to buy too many meters of fabric. Let's say, for example, a curtain. You'll need to get at least 10 meters to do the curtain plus the rippling. But on a lampshade, you just need to order about a meter, and that gets you enough to make quite a large size lampshade. Couple meters gets you some cushions and a shade. Here's a great example of a fabric with a pattern. So it's a textured fabric, so the pattern is quite subtle and inside the weave of the fabric. So if you've already got quite a lot happening in your room, maybe this could be an option for you. Just going with something with a lot of texture rather than grabbing a big bold pattern. But if your room is quite plain and you really want to introduce some pattern, then you can certainly find a print book with a big punch of colour, and it becomes quite striking. And finally, on our beginner's guide to fabrics, I'll take you to what you see in front of you, which is outdoor materials. So outdoor fabrics, what you need to know about outdoor fabrics is they're both fade resistant, which is the most important factor, mildew resistant, and quite often they're stain resistant as well. I don't just use outdoor fabrics for the primary use of being, outdoor cushions or outdoor bench seating. I also like to use outdoor fabrics for areas that have a lot of direct sunlight. So recently people have been doing quite a lot of banquette seating projects, so window daybeds and the like. And what we like to do is to do the mattress in a big solid colour, and then do lots of little pattern scatter cushions. And so outdoor fabrics these days come in an array of patterns. They used to be really boring, but now they're bright, colourful, they're fun, and they're really well priced. So that's your complete guide to fabrics. I've taken you through plain materials and all the different styles that you can do. You've also discovered a range of pattern fabrics, and then we've looked at outdoor fabrics. So if you want to check out the full range of fabrics from Shady Designs, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of collections for us to help you with. Drop us a line, organise an appointment here in our studio, and we'll find some fabrics that suit both your style and your budget. And the best thing to do is bring a photo of your room and your project, and we can help direct you towards some great fabrics that will bring your room to life.